So Downing Street has confirmed that Sir Keir Starmer has held talks with French President Emmanuel Macron following Donald Trump's decision to impose tariffs on British and EU goods earlier this week. The pair reportedly agreed that a trade war was in nobody's interest and expressed their concerns about the economic and security impact of the tariffs, particularly in Southeast Asia. This follows Jaguar Land Rover's decision to pause shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from Donald Trump's tariffs reverberates around the global economy. Stock markets around the world have plunged to new lows, with the London's FTSE 100 suffering the worst day losses seen in 5 years. But the US president is so far refusing to walk back on the tariffs, insisting instead that only the weak will fall. Well, let's get the thoughts of now former Assistant U.S. Commerce Secretary Mary Jo Jacobi. Mary, thank you very much for joining us. Mary, how are the United States seeing these tariffs being imposed? We're seeing protests around the world, including in America. How are they... is it a majority view, or is it just a minority who are just protesting and not happy, just in your mind?
I think at the moment there is a lot of interest, tariff. There's a lot of concern. I think that the degree of outrage that you're seeing in the streets today in Washington and London and all across America really is a group of people, a rather large group of people who don't agree with anything Donald Trump does, and they're going to take it to the streets regardless. You can see the combination of hands off on tariff, hands off on this, hands off on that, Greenland, the Panama Canal, etc. So what you see is a combination of issues that have irritated a lot of people. I don't think that the president's going to take a lot of note of it because he's used to it. I mean, this was a common occurrence throughout his first term.
It's interesting, though, what he's actually doing is what he said he would do. He's putting America first. And him bringing industry in-house, so all those other companies that are sort of exporting their stuff and America importing them, he's saying that there will be no tariff if you actually do your business from the United States, which can only be a good thing for the American people. Are people not seeing that?
They are not seeing that, and I don't think that that message has come across. And the word that is missing in this debate is reciprocal. And the president said this week, you do it to us and we'll do it to you. But it is reciprocal. All of these tariffs are bad if the U.S. imposes them. They've been imposed by the U.S. or are being imposed by the U.S. in retaliation, in reciprocity for tariffs that already exist against U.S. exports to other countries. The U.S. trade deficit right now is almost $1 trillion, $918 billion at the end of last year. Why is that okay? And why should the U.S. be, frankly, the dumping ground for inexpensive, some would say cheap goods from overseas, particularly from China, and not be able to ship its products elsewhere? Reciprocity is what's missing from the debate.
This video is sponsored by Saily. Saily is a brand new eSIM service app. What it does is get you a local SIM card that you can use when you're traveling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans in over 160 countries and 8 regions, so pretty much wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? Well, all you've got to do is hit our link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan, you can choose the best time frame for you, and then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once, so when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and just like that, you could be watching the GB News YouTube channel. You can be connected anywhere you go, and you don't have to deal with patchy Wi-Fi in your hotels. So get sorted for your next trip by downloading Saily using the link in the description below, and if you use our code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us.
And there's been lots here in the UK, people have been saying things like, oh, well, we don't want to eat chlorinated chicken and it's coming from the States. Look, you don't have to eat it. You don't have to eat anything. But, you know, lettuce and things are all chlorinated. The water is chlorinated. There's a lot of chlorine in things to kill germs and bacteria. And I guess if you don't want to eat chlorinated chicken, then don't eat it. But in terms of what the US export, are the Americans not concerned, because some of the other countries like China have already imposed certain tariffs as well, that those businesses may really feel the brunt of these tariffs?
Well, there is a great deal of concern. And when you talk to individual business people, they are worried about inventory that they have on the loading dock overseas that hasn't come in yet, that's going to be affected by these tariffs, the 10% that took effect at midnight, the larger amounts that will take effect later this month. But what most people say is, number one, the president isn't doing anything that he didn't say he was going to do. Number two, the twin deficits, trade and budget, are unacceptable. Therefore, tariffs and DOGE and the tax bill that is working its way through Congress all become very, very important. And what is also lost in this debate is the 2/3 of Americans who don't have university degrees, who are reliant on some of these lower paid, lower skilled jobs that have been lost over the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years to overseas manufacturers. What the president wants to do, and it's very simple, is level the playing field. And if other countries don't want to pay the US tariffs, they have two choices. They can lower their own tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers, or they can move their manufacturing to the United States. I would suggest to Sir Keir to start a negotiation, not with Emmanuel Macron, with Donald Trump, who can actually do something about it, and try to get a level playing field between the UK, which is already enjoying a preferential position, versus Europe, 10 versus 20%. Get that playing field level so that British exports will be welcomed to the United States, and American exports will be welcomed to the United Kingdom. Why doesn't somebody pick up the phone to RFK Jr. and talk about the hormones in American beef or the chlorine in American chicken, and look for ways to get those out so that the UK can then welcome American meat?
Yeah.
Seems simple to me.
It does seem quite simple. I'm not sure why everyone's having such a nightmare over it. He's opened the trading floor, as it were, for negotiation. If people want to lower tariff, then they can come and negotiate. That's how it works. I'm not quite sure why there's such outrage in doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I think that's probably the outrage, actually, to be fair, Mary. A politician who's actually doing what he said he would do. Do you know what I mean?
How dare he? How dare he fulfill his promises? Unacceptable.
And what about Elon Musk? I just want to ask about him, because he was obviously heading up DOGE, and now he is being affected by people being horrible about his cars, and the left, and I would say those who don't like Donald Trump and don't like Elon Musk, are trying to cut back on waste, are trying to destroy his business.
Yes, and Elon Musk came in at his own expense, on his own commitment. He is a special government employee. He's not receiving any kind of payment for his work and the work of his DOGE team. He said at the outset, and he reiterated a couple of weeks ago, that he was here to do a specific job, which is find $1 trillion in savings from waste, fraud, and abuse. He's found several $100 billion already. When he hits the $1 trillion mark, or when he hits the 130-day limit for a special government employee, he will return to his roles at Tesla and his other companies, SpaceX and X, and he will be an informal advisor to the president. The DOGE project, however, the Department of Government Efficiency project, will continue and will be embedded in the cabinet agencies. Once that $1 trillion mark is achieved, or the 130 days comes, whichever comes first, and I'm betting on the $1 trillion.
Yeah, well, he's the perfect person to be given that job, and he's, as far as I can see, doing a good job and making the decisions that need to be made. Well, listen, it's really good to talk to you, Mary Jo Jacobi, much appreciated. She's the former Assistant U.S. Commerce Secretary, and she joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.